Good day, my lovely learners. I hope you all had a good day at school today. I remain Mrs. Anne Obier. Now today on Basic Science, I will be taking you on a topic titled Reproduction in Plants. Reproduction in plants. Now before I go further, you might be wondering what is reproduction. Now, reproduction is the ability of living things to produce young ones of their kind. The ability of living things to produce their kind is referred to as reproduction. Now, you all know what living things are. I believe every one of you know that living things are things that have life in them. Now, we'll be looking at a section of living things, which is the plants. Now, the plant as a living thing has the ability to reproduce younger ones of its kind. Now, going further, reproduction is important because without reproduction, there won't be continuity of life. So, plants also reproduce. Now, the reproductive organ in a flowering plant is the flower. The flower is referred to as the reproductive organ. So you should take note of that the reproductive organ in a flowering plant is called the flower. Having known that the flower is the reproductive organ in a flowering plant, we'll move further to know the parts of a flower. Now we have two main parts in a flowering plant, and we have the male parts and the female parts. Now for the male part of a flowering plant is called the stamen. The stamen is the male part of a flowering plant, and the stamen has two other parts in it. It's made up of two other parts, which are the anther and the filament. Take note of that. The stamen consists of two other parts known as the anther and the filament, and it is the male part of a flower. Now going further, we go to the female part of the flower, which is known as the pistil. Now the pistil is referred to as the female part of the flower. And the pistil is made up of three parts, which are the stigma, the style, and the ovary. You see, these three parts makes up the pistil, which is known as the female part of the flower. Over here, we have a diagram showing the parts of a flower. You can see from the diagram, you can see the stigma, you can see the star, you can also see the ovary, and they are all in the pistil, which is the female part of the flower. They all make up the pistil, which is the female part of the flower. Now, you can also see the anther and the filament. They both make up the stamen, which is the male part of a flower. Now, going further, we want to go to the functions of the parts of a flower. Now, having known the various parts of the flower, we want to know what role they play in the flower. Now, the first one here is the anther. Remember, the anther is part of the male part of the flower. Now, the anther here produces the pollen grains. The anther produces the pollen grains. And what is a pollen grain? Now, the pollen grain is the male fertilizing agents. You're going to learn more about the pollen grain when I teach you pollination. So stay in touch. Now, the stigma. The stigma is a part of a female, is among the female parts of the flower. And the function of the stigma is that it receives the pollen grain from the pollen grain that is being produced by the anther during pollination. Like I said, we're going to treat pollination in our next topic, so stay in touch. So going further, we have the sepals. Now the sepals in flowers, they are the green petals that are at the base of the flower. Now we'll go back to our diagram and I'll show you what the petal is. Now the sepal, you can see from our diagram that the sepal is at the base of the flower and it's green in color. The function of the sepal is that it protects the developing bud. Now a bud is a young flower that is not yet formed. It's just a young growing flower that hasn't blossomed yet. So the function of the sepal is that it protects the bud. Alright, now to the petal. Now you can see here on our diagram the petal. Now the petal is a part of the flower that has bright colors, and its function is that it attracts insects. And insects helps, they are agents of pollination. So the petal, they attract insects for pollination. You can see their colors are bright. These are petals. Okay, now down to the star. The star. Now you can see from our diagram, the star is a pollen tube that carries the pollen grain during pollination to the ovary. You can see the star is a tube. You can see the tube. It is the pollen grain that is taken from the stigma goes down through the star to the ovary. Now the ovary, you can see the ovary over here. Now the ovary contains the ovaries. You can see from our diagram, the ovary contains the ovaries. You can see the ovaries inside the ovary. And what are the ovaries? The ovary is an organ that forms the seed of the flowering plants. Now you can see it's a seed-like organs there. You can see the seed-like structure there inside the ovary. And what is the function of the ovary? The function of the ovary is to protect the ovaries. So the ovary is like a home for the ovaries. So you can see it's so interesting knowing about the parts of a flowering plant. Now let's take a recap. Let's take a recap to what reproduction is. Now I said reproduction is the ability of living things to produce their young ones of their kind. It's the abilities of living things to produce their young ones. And I also said the reproductive organs of a flowering plant is the flower. And we also went further to know the various parts of a flower. And I said we have two main parts, which are the male part and the female part. And the male part of a flower is the stamen, which consists of the anther and the filament. Also, the female part of the flower is the pistil. And you should know that the pistil has three parts, which are the stigma, the star, and the ovary. All these are the parts of a flowering plant. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and a quick one, I want to give you an assignment. Now you should watch this video, study it, and when you come to school on Monday, they're going to give you a presentation on the reproduction in a plant. So bye for now, and I'll catch you up later.